Hello and welcome to our program Where God Weeps in Depth, a program where we talk about the situation of the suffering and persecuted church around the world. In today's program, we will talk about the situation of Christians in Nigeria. With more than 206 million people, it is the most populous country in Africa. The population is almost equally divided between Christians, concentrated in the south, and Muslims, predominantly in the north. Nigeria's ranking in the Global Terrorism Index is 6th out of 163 countries. According to a report by Intersociety, an international human rights monitoring group, over 50,000 Christians have been killed in the past 14 years. Additionally, 18,000 churches and 2,200 Christian schools have been destroyed, with more than 700 Christians kidnapped. Since 2012, 39 Catholic priests have been killed, 30 kidnapped, and 17 catechists attacked, mostly in the north. This crisis is multifactorial. Many layers of different kinds of conflicts entwine: political confrontations, corruption, religious fanaticism, tribal animosity, climate change, territorial disputes, and plain pillage. But whatever the roots are, the results have been tragic to the Christian population.
Christians across Nigeria are becoming the victims of increasing violence. On Christmas Day 2011 in Madala, about 40 kilometers from the capital of Abuja, a car loaded with explosives was detonated just outside the grounds of St. Teresa's Catholic Church. 44 people were killed, over 80 were left injured.
There were a lot of people, and some of them were coming with some item for me to bless: rosary, crucifix, olive oil. As soon as I finished blessings, I was about entering the house, I heard just a loud sound. Bah! Twice.
The bombing, one of the deadliest in recent times to scar Africa's most populous nation, was carried out by the extremist militant Islamic group Boko Haram. This wave of terror, which is becoming more audacious and frequent, threatens to drive Christians from their places of worship. In the city of Jos, the Church of Christ in Nigeria headquarters were devastated in February 2012 by a suicide bomber.
When you look up there, you see some of the pieces of a scattered car and the remaining engine of the car there. He was aiming at the congregation, and if God had not protected, it could have pulled this building down, and people could just have been buried down here.
Nigeria's Boko Haram, which in the Hausa language means Western education is forbidden, is a vague and undefined militant Islamic group with origins in the northern city of Maiduguri. At its outset in 2002, Boko Haram preached a doctrine of rejection of all things Western that, as they claimed, led to the country's social injustices. By 2009, the group's actions turned ugly. Boko Haram began a campaign of terror with assassinations and senseless suicide bombings, resulting in over 1,000 deaths. Police stations, churches, markets, schools, and even the UN headquarters in the capital Abuja have been attacked. To combat the spread of violence, the government has imposed a curfew in certain areas. Roadblocks and checkpoints have become an everyday experience for both Christians and Muslims. There is growing fear that Boko Haram is networking outside Nigeria's borders as their attacks become more deadly.
We know from intelligence reports that this Boko Haram group has been receiving training from groups outside of Nigeria, like the Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb. and also the Al-Shabaab in Somalia. They have fraternal links with these terrorist, fundamentalist Islamic groups. The trainings they got are professional trainings, how to make the bombs. Nobody would have taught them that in Nigeria.
The minority Christian population in the predominantly Muslim north, where a stricter Sharia law is enforced, is increasingly the victim of threats and violence perpetrated by Boko Haram and its supporters. Entire families have been forced to flee their villages, leaving their property and lives behind.
Christians are being targeted and shot at. Sometimes they follow the Christians in their homes and shoot at them. The children you see me with know what a bomb is, know what gunshots are.
Amid this devastating wave of persecution, Catholic leaders have called for justice and order. They seek dialogue between the religious communities in the hope of mending the relations torn apart by terror. They want to avoid letting a violent minority draw the nation's attention to religious differences that to them are not the source of the conflicts at all. After the Christmas Day blasts in Madala, a centre for counselling and dialogue has been created by the diocese.
We're in discussion to see how we can build small units of inter-religious dialogue, interfaith dialogue, Muslims as well as Christians. And when we talk of Christians, we talk of other denominations with the Catholic Church being the leader and bringing our brothers and sisters together. So my prayer is that the good Lord will rest the souls of all those who died, because I consider them martyrs. They died for Christ.
According to the video we watched, in 12 states, non-Muslims face discrimination due to the interpretations of Sharia law. This law has worsened the tension, turning ethnicity and religion into tools for gaining power, resources, and privileges. In these states, Christians are barred from government roles. Christian women are abducted and forcibly married, and all female students in secondary schools are required to wear the Muslim hijab. Additionally, churches are denied construction permits, and Christian places of worship are destroyed without compensation. Boko Haram is a Salafi jihadist group that aims to establish a caliphate in Nigeria and enforce a strict interpretation of Sharia law. In 2016, it is split into two factions, JAS and the Islamic State of West Africa Province, ISWAP. This last faction of Boko Haram implements Sharia with brutal punishments like amputation for theft and killing for adultery. It targets the Christian minority in the north. But despite the constant danger, many continue attending church, even when churches are often attacked.
I love singing. I'm a chorister. 7 years ago, Sarah Johanna was my best friend. I met with Sarah since in secondary school. Then we met again in the church, in the choir. We sang together till the day she died. I spent time with Sarah in so many ways. We laughed together, chatting, singing. We practiced with Sarah in the church and outside the church. We walk on the road, practicing, singing. Sarah sings soprano, and her voice is so sweet. When I sing, sometimes I imagine I'm hearing her voice, because we are always together. During rehearsing, she always sit beside me. The title of my favorite song that I sang with Sarah was When I Remember What the Lord Has Done for Me. When I remember that you've died for me, my heart is for joy, for there's none like you. Lord, my offerings to you, which I offer with my friends today. On the 28th of October, 2012, that which I will never forget. On that fateful Sunday, we left our houses so happily to come to the church as usual to celebrate Mass. Immediately after sharing the peace, the next thing we could hear is a sound from nowhere. The suicide bomber hit the church. We didn't finish the song. The church was very dark. All we could see is smoke all over. Some people crying, people shouting. Immediately then, I didn't feel any pain. Later, I opened my eye. All I could see on my body was blood. And I lost one of my eye. And because of that day, I have scars that to remain in my body forever. There's nothing to be ashamed of, because whenever I see myself, when I look at my face in the mirror, I say, God, you know all. Sarah died in my presence, struggling with herself. Tears were coming out from her eye. So from there, her eyes were closed. Four of our choristers were dead. We lost them. They didn't die in vain. So many people think we'll stop worshiping here, we'll run away, but we say no. We are not going to leave this environment. God has a purpose for leaving us alive. God wants us to be strengthened more in our faith and also to stay here because of the kind of environments we are. Every day, I think about Sarah in my life. I hear Sarah whispering to me. I hear her voice. Each time I think about her, all I could say is she died because of her faith. When people see us, see the scars, see what we have been passing through, they think we'll be discouraged. I, in particular, I can never be discouraged. Rather, I will be encouraged.
In Nigeria's Middle Belt, conflicts persist between Muslim Fulani herdsmen and Christian farmers. They dispute over resources like land and water, combined with ethnic, political, and religious tensions. Fulani terrorists, a small faction of the Fulani population, have adopted extremist Islamist ideology and are recruited by jihadist groups, resulting in an estimated 13,000 deaths since 2009. Reliable reports detail systematic killings, rapes, abductions, attacks on religious sites, livelihood destruction, and land occupation. These conflicts threaten the historic coexistence of the Fulani and the farming communities.
ina aure, ina da mata da yara 4, ina da kuma jika. Ma muna aiki a gona tare da iyalina. Shekara ta 2017, ran 17 ga wata na 7 shi ne aka fara kawo mana hari a wannan kauye. Amma tun da aka kawo wannan harin nan muna zaune karfe 6 na safe sai mun fara jin harbe-harben biringogi. Da mun ji harbe-harben biringogin nan sai duka ihu ne ya kama gari. Mun ji mun je mun ga yawan mu an harbe su an kwantar da su. Dalilin da yake ba mu wahala saboda yanayin hanyar babu kyau kuma ba mu da network inda ko za a kira wani ko domin samun taimako, abin da yake ba mu wahala kenan. Waɗannan muka yi dai kungiya na sentiri domin tsaro, amma ko da dare haka sai su dinga zagaya suna tsaron mutane a cikin gidaje. Lokacin da sun zo wannan attack na 2019 a watan ran 8 ga watan 12 sun zo sun kusa da 500.
Gaskiya kamar wurin nan sa ba zan iya sai dai muna zaune sai muka bi around 5 sai muka jama'a mutane suna zuwa ba ma ya mun sai gane ko su wane ne ba. Suna zuwa sai suna ta harbe ne kawai a birgogi, kuma jama'a kuma muna kan gudu ne ba ma ya musan su waye ne.
Sun zo daga tanan ta yamma, sun zo kawai sun kewaye garin. Akwai wanda suke kone gidaje, akwai wanda kuma suna bi suna ta harbe-harbe. Mun kawai sai bungu da mun shiga daji, ba abin da muka doka komai da kowa ya fita ya bar gida. Bidin mun yi ta jin harbe-harbe.
Waɗanda aka kashe su ba su da rai sun kai kamar 30.
Ina da mata guda 3, ina da yara guda 10, ina da dabbobi wanda suka kimanin sanuwa 30, ina da awaki guda 27. Ni lokacin da nake yaro ba na rere ba a dara da bafulatani, domin duka harkokinmu yana cikin gidajensu, ba mu san cewa ma akwai rigima in ba yanzu ba. Kowa wanda ka gani dan uwanka ne. Duka bai fi shekara 15 ko zuwa 20 da farawa wannan rikice-rikicen nan tsakaninmu da su, ma duka bai fi shekara 10 ba. Wannan lokaci an fito da sace-sace wanda mu anan ba mu son ci ba kwata-kwata, sai a zo a kore ma bafulatani shanu gaba daya, wanda shi kuma bafulatani dukiyansa ya gada ne kakanni da iyaye. Shine sai suka dawo suna satan jama'a. To wannan bafulatanin da yake wannan wurin sai suka kamar mun hada baki ne da su, an zo an dauki kadara sai su farmashi. To an farmashi sai a je a kashe wanda za a kashe. To kuma wannan mutane dama ba 'yan ƙasa ba ne, su ma sun fito daga wani wuri ba ruwansu da kowa. To mu kuma wannan mutane ba su gane cewa a'a mu ba ma so wannan abu. Aka dawo ana kashe juna, bayan sun kashe juna su kuma Fulani sai su dawo su ma daga baya sai a zo a yi masu attack. Sanadin da rigiman tsakaninmu da su abin da ya sa aka yi ta wannan rikici kenan shine sanadi wannan kinafin, dalilin da ya sa aka yi ta wannan rigima a wannan karamar hukumar Kajibu. Ni a fahimta na da kuma yadda nake hange, dukkan mutumin da aka ce maka ya lalace ko kai ka haife shi to yana tabbatar maka ba zai baka ba, saboda tunanin shi ba irin tunanin ka ba, kuma dole ne mu zauna da ciwo ba yadda za mu yi ba kuma mai tsoron wani. Na farko kaga wannan kasuwa da an dawo da ita tana da muhimmanci domin za a samu mu'amala mai kyau, kamar yadda na shiga kasuwar nan na gaba haushe da bafulatani da kadara ana can hannu, to wannan abu ya ƙara faranta da sallah. Bahaushe ya zo ya farin ciki, kadara ma ya zo ya farin ciki, bafulatani ya zo ya farin ciki, to wannan ma kirsimeti za a sha kuɗa ai wannan abubuwa domin mu ƙara danƙun zumunci. To da abin da aka so ne kenan, to wannan abu aka rasa shi a cikin wannan shekaru, kaga abu ne wanda yake yana raba zumunci.
Tragically, Mr. Ardo Musa Aliyu was killed by extremists shortly after completing this film. Muslims also face violence from radical Islamists, often as collateral damage in bombings or for advocating peaceful coexistence with Christians. According to the Intersociety report from April 2023, around 34,000 moderate Muslims have been killed in Islamist attacks, though Christians remain the main target. These attacks have led to massive displacement, with approximately 10 million Christians forced to flee the northern regions of Nigeria, living in camps for internally displaced people or seeking refuge abroad in dire conditions. The Diocese of Makurdi alone houses 2 million displaced individuals from different parts of the country.
I didn't imagine I was going to see human suffering in such manner. Villages burned down, people being killed in their homes, some having unable to bury their dead because they were shot in the bush as if they are wild animals. The killings are continuing. In the Diocese of Makurdi alone, we have 2 million people in more than 7 IDP camps who are displaced from their homes. In the camps, they lack the basic things of life. You can imagine the people who used to fend for themselves are having to beg now to eat, to feed. Those who have sleeping mats are less than 500,000. So you are talking about 1.something million people who don't have any place to sleep and then sleep on the bare floor. This is the condition that human beings have been reduced to for many years. We're not talking about 1 year, we're talking about years. So they are living in a circle of hopelessness. But what we have tried to do as a diocese, as a church, is to give them hope. A people without hope cannot exist for long. The internally displaced persons have so many needs. but we do appeal that if it is possible, in whatever way that you can help us, we are begging and we are soliciting your help. I would like to thank the aid to the church in need for all that they have done for us in the Kalidas of Makudi. In Nigeria, Christianity is persecuted. We look to you to continue to pray for us. Thank you very much.
People cannot live without hope. That is why it is so important for us to be close to our sisters and brothers in Nigeria, to be aware of their suffering, to be close in prayer, to be involved in concrete assistance, and to demand in the international forums respect for their rights. In the next episode, we will continue with the theme of Nigeria. Despite the persecution and challenges, the Catholic Nigerian Church is full of life and beauty worth exploring. And thank you for being with us in another program of Where God Weeps in Depth. If you want to know more about the work the Church is doing in Nigeria, we encourage you to contact the information at the end of this program. Thank you, and God bless.